I'm very open about like my sobriety. Currently, I have 5 years, April 15th. And, I'm really open about how I was drinking a lot and did a little bit of drugs. And, I'm pretty transparent. I have a very thick skin. I've been existing on the internet now for,
If someone comes up to you on the street, what's your go-to move?
well, I'll tell you this. If somebody comes up to me on the street, you have to have like a stance because you have to be, you have to have like a proper stance because you can't be just, smacked like that. You're like caught off guard. So now I know I need a stance. And now I know I need to like look you right in the eye too. And I also know that you're not supposed to do like this, that you're supposed to do, you know what I mean? Like I have to hide my face.
So that's one piece of advice for anybody listening. Don't start a fight with CJ. She knows her stuff now. Lions Den Sports Special. Very pleased to have on CJ today. CJ, first of all, how you doing?
Hi, I'm doing well. I am in Vegas today, loving the warm Vegas air, bit of breeze, relaxing outside.
Tell us what you're doing in Vegas.
I'm here visiting my boyfriend. We're going to go to the UFC fight this weekend and living the good life over here. There's a little more spacious out here in Vegas than LA. So
it's crazy, right? And it's crazy. As I was saying, we spent a week over there watching the boxing and stuff, visiting different gyms. Unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to meet in person, but hopefully next time we can do something more in person. But yeah, thank you very much for agreeing to do this, man. It's really appreciated. And we want to find out more about you and your boxing sort of journey, because we discussed a little bit about it on the phone before, why you sort of started. But I think it's important to find out a little bit more about you, your upbringing, what it is that you do more, and and how you got involved in what you do at the moment. So yeah, I guess first of all, whereabouts is it you're from?
I'm originally from Sacramento, California. But I grew up most of my childhood after my parents divorced in Galt, California. It's a tiny little cow town. A lot of farming, a lot of pigs, goats, all the good stuff. So country, born and raised.
How did you find that lifestyle?
Growing up, we always were kind of like, it's really frustrating to be growing up in a small town. There's not a lot to do. And that was true. There's not a lot to do. There's not a lot of options for friends, dating, jobs. But looking back on it now from where I stand currently, I feel very blessed. I feel like it was probably the best way to grow up. I just turned 39. So I feel like our generation was kind of like the last generation to be riding the bikes until, the street lights went off and playing outside all day. So I feel grateful to have grown up that way. No cell phones.
Oh, that's quite interesting. You said that. What do you reckon in the new generation coming through now? You're watching it obviously quite a bit in the world that you're coming through. What do you reckon all that's happening now?
I think, the younger generation is more focused on their phones, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I myself, I make my living through my phone and I feel very grateful for that. But I couldn't imagine having all of that, at like 14, 15, 16, when you're so impressionable. I can remember, going to school and thinking like, oh, is so-and-so mad at me, and you're kind of stressed out about it, or, you've had like a little disagreement with your boyfriend or something, that was like my big stress, or like the test, or, did I pass the math test? Nowadays, the kids have to deal with kind of like online bullying and different things. So it's like a whole new level. I'm grateful I didn't have any of that growing up.
Do you still worry about what people's opinions are?
Me, no, not currently. It would take a lot. I'm very open about like my sobriety. Currently, I have 5 years, April 15th. And, I'm really open about how I was drinking a lot and did a little bit of drugs. And, I'm pretty transparent. I have a very thick skin. I've been existing on the internet now for, honestly, this is kind of wild. This kind of just dawned on me. I have been existing on the internet for well over half of my life. So, I think MySpace came out. I can remember I was working at Mercedes-Benz in Stockton. And so I was like, probably like, well, maybe not over half my life, but about half. So I was in my early 20s and I'm 39. So not quite 20 years, but that's the direction we're heading in. And yeah, yeah. For me, it's a good thing now, but I can remember I have this one memory when Twitter was kind of like the first social media where you would tweet things out to people that weren't your friends. MySpace, you would accrue friends, and then there was a thing about the top eight. And then Facebook, you would add people. At first, it was like a friends and family thing, but Twitter, I can remember, was the first kind of platform where you would really kind of interact with strangers. And I can remember when a girl that didn't like me for whatever reason tweeted out that I was a porn star because I had done like a bikini photo shoot, kind of racy. It was some very tiny bikinis. And I can remember feeling so mortified and just totally crushed. But that was like, it was like after that, after I survived that, I thought, okay, it's like from there, that was when my thick skin started to grow. And then for as long as I've existed, you'd have to be really creative with your put down to bother me at this point.
I'm just really interested to get into that mindset, because what I see is a lot of the generation now mentally can't put up with that, right? It affects them mentally.
Correct. Yeah.
What mechanism? I know you say you just ignore it, but what sort of strategies and stuff can you say for those people who to get past that stage and not have it affect them so much?
Unfortunately, I would say it is something you have to experience a little bit. It is something that you need to go through a few times in order to build a thick skin. There's ways to avoid these things, but why? You kind of have to move through it. You have to experience the pain and then kind of realize that, okay, yeah, this might feel a little painful, but, I'm going to go to sleep tonight, same as I do every night. I'm going to wake up and life is going to go on. There's no real way to get around it. Sometimes, if I'm having like a rough day or I don't understand really, like why somebody said something about me, usually it's something on my podcast, Inside OnlyFans. We have a lot of really good supportive fans there, but every now and again, something will go a little bit viral and we'll get a lot of angry people on there. And so they'll say some hurtful things. And I'll just go on like a celebrities page and I'll just, especially like the Kardashians or something, those people get so much hate. A lot of these celebrities get so much hate and, like they're living life, they're doing well. And, so I just kind of feel like if they can do it, so can I. These are people that pay so much money to have like professional hair, professional makeup, professional wardrobe. And if they're still getting hate, then like, I just need to accept it because I don't have the luxury of having all that. So it's kind of just something that you need to experience and just realize that your life isn't going to be over. There's no real easy way around it. You have to build up your thick skin and to just kind of also remember that you're not that special. Everyone's going to get fucking hate. You're not above any of the hate. If it's not for one thing, it's another. And it doesn't need to be that big of a deal. And also too, I truly have never seen like a hater doing better than me. And I don't go around myself kind of, making rude comments or trying to tear other people down because I'm busy. I'm booked and busy. I have things going on. I have, goals that I want to accomplish. And if I'm sitting home alone by myself and bored, I'll put on like a nice eye mask or something or take a bath. I'm not going to go online and, try to tear other people down. So it's unfortunate somebody in that mindset that does something like that, they're just done well. You can't control the actions of others. You can't pay them any attention.
Just get through it. You've got to experience it and get through it. And I guess if you're not receiving any hate, it means that you're not doing something right as well, right?
That's right. If everybody underneath all your pictures or, if none of your family members are ever, talking bad about you behind your back, then you're like not doing anything of interest. You want a few haters,
Yeah. Great. And I want to go back to your upbringing as well, because you mentioned about where you were brought up, but were you involved in any sports?
Yeah, I was. I loved soccer growing up. I know over in the UK, I believe it's called football. So, but
That's the right term for it worldwide, really.
yes. Okay. You know what? I digress. We'll call it football from here on out. But I played fullback, which is the person like at the back of the field kind of guarding the goalie. I loved that.
Yeah.
It was such a good time. And my 2 years younger sister and I played for a little while together, and we had a blast. It was awesome. We were like really at each other's throats for a little while too. But we had a blast, and it was really fun. I also played softball and basketball. And yeah, I'm still very active now. And I don't do as much of that, but I do the boxing, the Pilates, and I'm playing pickleball recently. I'm actually playing pickleball later, so but very sporty growing up.
What do you reckon sport taught you growing up?
You know, how to play well with the team, how to communicate. You have to in order to play well as a team, you guys need to all be able to communicate, even if you don't really like someone, or even if you don't know them that well. You've got to use your voice, let them know what they're doing. Or if you need something from them, you have to speak up and ask. Yeah, definitely how to work well with others, both verbally and physically as a team,
Amazing. Okay, great. So that's the next. So, but when you stopped playing sport, why did you stop playing sports?
Oh my gosh. Well, to be honest, I loved soccer. That was like my number one, or football. That was my number one love. And I got an older boyfriend when I was in high school, and I started drinking, and my grades dropped too low. I think I might have had like the lowest grade point average in all of that class that year, because I just wasn't turning in my homework. I wasn't being a good student. And as a result, I was no longer able to play on my soccer team, on my football team. And I was really devastated. And I do kind of wish perhaps that they didn't have that rule, because looking back, that was kind of the one thing that would have kept me tethered to my studies. Or I wish somebody would have kind of sat me down and said, hey, you can play for like this next semester, but we need to get your grades up. Otherwise, you're going to be cut. So I wish I would have had like a little more communication in that. But yeah, I got cut. I was being a bad kid, and that's all she wrote. So I was done.
You mentioned that you were involved in the drinking aspect and you with your boyfriend and stuff. What happened with that situation? Did that carry on for a long time? And what was your family saying about that? About your grades and stuff?
My mom and my dad had gotten divorced, and then we moved. We lived with my grandma, and I was doing okay. And then my mom remarried and got pregnant, and had my little brother. And I think I felt at that time like that was kind of like my rebellious time, where I was like, okay, nobody's paying attention to me. My mom's got this new husband, and my little half brother, who I'm very close with now. I love them very much, and I have a great relationship with my family now. But like when you're young, it's like everything is the end of the world. And so I'm just like, okay, well, I'm just gonna go off and drink. And to my mom's credit, she was busy. She did have a new baby. She had a new husband. And my dad at the time, both my brother, my sister, and I, we were all a little bit estranged from my dad. We were all so young. So, divorce is so hard on both sides. And my mom and my dad at the time weren't communicating, which meant that the kids really weren't either. And I dated him for a few years. And then I got another boyfriend that I dated for a few years. I'm like a serial boyfriend haver. And they were always older, so we would just like go out and party, and nothing bad ever happened or anything like that. I always had like very loving, caring partners, but I just was like, prioritizing kind of drinking, going out, and being like a naughty kid versus sports, unfortunately. And sports was really kind of like my first love, and it still is today the one thing that my dad and I we can really talk about. So I'm grateful for sports in that way.
How's your relationship with your dad now?
So good. So good. Yeah, I actually just spoke to him a few hours ago, and we're trying to kind of figure out what we're gonna do. His birthday is this month. So I'm trying to figure
Nice,
out.
congratulations.
Yeah, trying to figure out, okay, am I gonna take him to like a football game, like a 49ers, or is he gonna come?
American football game.
Yes, American football. Yes. And or if he's gonna come down to LA and maybe try to do like a Rams or something like that. So we're trying to get it figured out.
Amazing. Am I right in thinking? So, what age were you doing this dating thing? And am I right in thinking that you got involved in quite heavy drinking as well in your late 20s?
Yeah, I think, I had I started dating. I was so young. I had no business starting to date. I was like 12 when I had my first boyfriend, and I like thought I was gonna marry him. And I dated that guy for 2 years, and then I kind of had serial long-term relationships after that too. Like I always had a boyfriend. It was always long-term. It was always like it was still younger guys, but it was older guys. It's always boys that were like a couple years older at least. And so they were kind of always like showing me the ropes and different things. And again, it wasn't in the early years where we were doing anything like really bad or, like kids do. We were kind of like driving around. Then we'd find like a spot, pull over on the side of the road, and like everybody would congregate, like or in like a parking lot, and everybody would congregate. And you call your friend. Like we used to hang out in the Taco Bell parking lot. Like this is country kids, you know what I mean? So we weren't doing anything big, but I just wasn't I wasn't driven at this time in my life. I wasn't driven, and I was just kind of enjoying being a young person. I always worked. I had like a little busing job at my uncle's restaurant and then a restaurant locally. So I always had money, and I'd always have the couple years older boyfriend with the car, and then he'd have like an older friend or something that would go and get us beer. Like, it's like as young people do. I was kind of finding myself in that time, and it was still all pretty innocent. But yeah, when the drinking picked up, and then when I kind of discovered that was when the sports took a back seat. And then from there, I was always able to hold down jobs, and I always had money. I was always really hardworking. For the earlier part of my 20s, I consistently had several forms of income. I would waitress in the mornings, and I worked at Walmart in the evenings, and then I was modeling. Back then, we would get jobs on Craigslist. I wouldn't suggest that now. There were legitimate modeling jobs to be had on Craigslist. I would not suggest that now. It's very dangerous. And then we also had a site called Model Mayhem. And that was right around the time of Facebook, where MySpace and Facebook were kind of just picking up. So you could also book jobs on there too. And I would do like promotional gigs where I would go to the bar, like for St. Patrick's Day, and I would hand out keychains and different things like that. So I'm grateful, like, even though I had a boyfriend I was dating, and I was always kind of like, loved to party, loved to go out and be social. I was like working a lot too, nonstop. I remember there was a few times too, I was like at a party, and I would like sit down on the couch with a beer, and I would just like pass out because I was working so hard. It was like, it's kind of funny, but yeah, I was always very driven. I just, sports for a long time took a back seat. Unfortunately, I wish it wouldn't have. I always felt like I could.
Just the curiosity, like this drive that you talk about, because you mentioned that before you don't have goals, but where did this drive and this work ethic come from?
We didn't have any money growing up. There's a very pivotal moment. Every kid kind of has this pivotal moment, I think, where every kid that kind of grows up, I guess, without money. We were poor, it's like a paycheck to paycheck kind of a thing, but there wasn't any extra, so I definitely want to maintain, like we didn't go without or anything, but it was a 2-room trailer that, when my mom and my dad got divorced and we were living on, it was with the farm with my cousins. So like we were very well taken care of, but there wasn't any money for extra. It's like you got the pack of pencils, and if you lost a pencil or if you lost a pack, then you're like ass out. You have to, figure out a way to get it handled. And so we just I wanted to like go and do movies and, maybe go and like get like a new pair of shoes. I can remember when pagers came out. I thought, oh, I've got to get a pager. I don't know if you or your viewers are old enough to know what a pager is, but before cell phones, so I always kind of had the desire to kind of want like these extra things for myself and want to enjoy life in a bigger way rather than just keeping everything very small and kind of, in a little box. So one day I asked my dad, I was working at the time, and I asked my dad, there was like a Honda that was in the Save Mart, which is like a grocery store chain parking lot, in a small town. So I've seen it before. People will park the cars like in the further part of the lot, and it'll say like, oh, this car for sale. And so there was this Honda Accord that I really wanted. Long story short, I told my dad, I really want this car. Do you think that you would be able to help me with this? And my dad was like, it was like $5,000 or something. My dad was like, yeah, if you save up 2,500, I'll get the other half. And I was like, oh, wow, okay. And I had already had a little bit of money saved up. So it was like a couple months later, I went to my dad. I'm like, Dad, I have the money. I just went today and the car is still there. And my dad just looked at me and he was like, I don't have the money. And I'll never forget, in that moment, I was like, oh, he said that he would do that because he didn't think that I could save up the money on my own. And he doesn't have the money. He never, like, in the way that he said it. And this is, I could be wrong, because like as a child, you're so wounded by these little comments. But I took it as he never thought I was going to be able to save up the money on my own. And he never even intended, he never like gave it a second thought after that day. He just said, yeah, shined me on. And there was never any real action behind those words. And so that for me, that was when I realized I'm alone. If I want something, I need to be able to handle it on my own, or I'm not going to be able to get it. And money is freedom,
And you're in the right place for getting money as well. LA, Vegas. My experience there, all people talked about was money there. But how can we let's network, let's do this together, It's a very, like, here money is, we don't talk about as money as much. I don't want to come across like disrespectful, but we don't talk about as much as money in the UK as you do in the US. Mm-hmm. It's very money driven, right? The mindsets are completely different. And have you noticed that as well?
I have only ever spent about a week in the UK, so I really don't have too much to compare it to. But I do know that, the United States especially, I know we're very money driven. We're like, there's a lot of capitalism here, bless. I'm very grateful for that, because that means people like me who don't come from money can, have the ability or, the options to make a lot of money. Unless you live in California, you give half of it away back to the government, but that's a whole other story. But, we are, especially in LA, people are very vain. They're going to want to know your followers, or they're going to kind of want to figure out right from the get-go, like what it is that you have that they can potentially benefit from. And I think that there's both good and bad to something like that.
Straight to the point, right? What can you offer me? What can I offer you? Boom. Interesting.
I definitely find it very jarring myself, kind of being from a small town, because I am used to a bit of small talk, but, it's also been inspirational in that, I now have the ability to kind of get straight to the point too sometimes. So I believe, that attitude has also helped me at some point in life.
Tell me how you got involved in modeling.
The modeling, I got involved in modeling because, I think like back in the day at the clubs, you could get paid like per head if you brought people into the club. So they started doing like bikini bikini photo shoot or bikini runway show in Sacramento. And one of my girlfriends was doing that. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, she's like so beautiful. She was like this beautiful curvy blonde. And she was like, well, you should come and do it with me too. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this girl thinks that I can do that too. And we were kind of already getting paid a couple bucks per head for people that we would bring into the club. So I thought, okay, well, if I'm doing this show with this girl and I kind of have her co-signing saying like, I'm good enough, then I'll have like a real reason to invite these other people to the club. Like, oh yeah, come see me. And then I'll make more money. So that was kind of how I got into it.
And you stayed on it ever since. And now you're doing OnlyFans and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. 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 I have the OnlyFans podcast as well.
I wanted to ask you about the podcast. Why don't you tell people more about the podcast that you do?
It's we interview anything from mild to wild. All you have to do is have an OnlyFans page, and we will interview you. We've interviewed men, women, and people in between.
And really, I saw a few of your ones. They're quite wild. Quite some wild clips in there.
Yeah, there's it's so interesting because there's certain people that you're like, oh, this one's going to be wild, and then there's other people that you're like, it's just going to be maybe like a normal conversation, and then they get on and you're like, oh my God. And then there's other people that you're like, oh, I feel like she's going to have a lot to say, and then they get on and their lips are sealed and you're like, oh wow, this is so interesting. So it's taught me a lot about people as well. Never judge a book by its cover.
That's 100%, 100%. So let's go back to what we started this conversation about boxing. Tell me how you got involved in boxing first around while you started this journey.
So actually, boxing, my co-host on Inside OnlyFans, Kayla Loren, she actually got me started into boxing. I don't exactly recall how she got into boxing herself, but I would see her doing these like, little boxing snippets she would post on her Instagram. And I thought, oh, she looks so cool doing that. Like, and I've always also felt like, oh, I should probably know. Like, I've gotten a couple fights growing up, and
you probably pretty like,
yeah, I did. Some girl.
You started.
No. Are you kidding me? Like, the last fight I ever got in, well, 2 fights. I was drunk both times, but one fight I got in because some girl's boyfriend liked me, and I'm like, that is not my fault. But she definitely, for sure, like beat me up in the middle of the street, for sure. I remember it was so scary, and I was like, oh my God, I didn't even understand why. And then afterwards, I was like, oh, okay. I remember being so confused, and I was just like, I don't understand how that's my fault. So that was so bad. And to this day, I just hope that she sees me doing so well in life, because she really got me so good. She was ripping me by my hair, and I just didn't stand a chance. She was older than me, bigger than me. So and then the second one, I got in a fight with my brother one time when we were out at the bars, because I think some girl was saying something to me, and then she started fighting me like with a group of her friends, and then we all, it was like everyone converged, and I'm pretty sure me and my brother got the not the short end, the long end of the stick on that one. So that being said, I'm 1 for 2. So but I have been not the best track record, but not the worst. But so that when I have gotten in a fight once in the Jack in the Box drive-thru, and I was very drunk. And I did go to jail that evening, and it did result in a DUI, but we'll glaze over that story. So again, not my...
We'll save that for another time.
We'll save that for another time. Not my finest moments. And, so clearly I'm just like this wild person who, has the need to defend herself, or to at least understand, like where to throw the punches. It's like, I'm probably that lady like doing this, or, swinging from like way back here, And, so the real reason why I had felt compelled is because one day when I was walking in West Hollywood, there was a homeless person who came up from behind me and attacked me, and they were screaming and they were saying I was following them, and I was so kind of out of it. I ended up running into the street, because in that moment, when somebody like comes up from behind and you're so unaware, because I was just walking, it was like a nice day like today, and I just came from yoga and I was super zen. And I thought I could hear somebody loud coming up behind me, but I just thought it was somebody walking on their phone. And I didn't think much about it. And I remember being so startled by this person that I ran out into the street, into the crosswalk, but it was a green light. So I could have really been hit, hurt, or even worse. And so from that day forward, I was like, this is like it's so dangerous. LA, unfortunately, we do have a large homeless population. And, they're not like the homeless people that I grew up with in San Francisco. They're not just like smoking weed, singing songs. They're a little bit violent, and a lot of them are mentally ill, unfortunately. So that being said, I felt like, okay, I really need to figure out how to defend myself, because it's quite dangerous. So I would see my girlfriend, I would see her doing this, and I thought, oh my gosh, it looks so cool. But I was always so intimidated. But like my girlfriend, if you've ever watched the podcast, Kayla, she's a very pretty girl. Her body was very fit, but she didn't have like these big, huge muscles, or, wasn't making her look masculine or anything. And I thought, if Kayla can do it, maybe this is something that I can do too. And so she had invited me a few times, and I was super intimidated. She didn't invite me several times over. And finally I was like, okay, she had even told me too, you're not going to be good. Like, just come, just enjoy, do a class, see how you feel after. Like, you're very fit. You're always kind of doing something fitness related. Like, just come, just try it. So I was like, okay, that sounds good. As long as I knew that the bar for entry was very low. And so I tried it, and I was very horrible at first, but I really, really liked it. And I did it consistently for a few years. I've been a little inconsistent the last few months, but I tell you one thing, there's nothing like being able to set your phone down and just kind of like be so much in that moment. And it's the one thing that I really like about boxing, is because you're working with your hands and you're working with your feet, and then also your head, your mind is also kind of in it as well. So it's your bottom half, your top half, and then your mind too. And I love workouts that inspire you to put your phone down specifically, but inspire you to kind of get out of yourself and get out of your mind. Being an addict myself, I'm like always in my mind, and it's very rarely like anything positive. You wake up and you scroll and you're like, I don't have this, I should be here, look what this person's doing. And it's natural. It's, especially when you first wake up in the morning, it's very natural, right? Your brain's not even awake yet. That's why you shouldn't be on your phone first thing when you wake up, but we all do it. And so, boxing really inspired me to get out of my head. And then, not to mention, now if something bad does go down, I have it, in my head, what I'm going to do. I have some basic teachings. I'm certainly not going to get in the ring anytime soon with anyone, but I feel equipped. And that's important, especially for a woman.
Well, what's your go-to move? If someone comes up to you on the street, what's your go-to move?
Well, I'll tell you this. If somebody comes up to me on the street, you have to have like a stance, because you have to be, you have to have like a proper stance, because you can't be just, smacked like that. You're like caught off guard. So now I know I need a stance. And now I know I need to like look you right in the eye too. And I also know that you're not supposed to do like this, that you're supposed to do, you know what I mean? Like, I have to hide my face.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like,
just don't say wait. Don't say in front. Just wait. Yeah, don't tell the person wait. Let me just sort my stance out. Let me sort my guard out.
Right.
Just make sure you get straight out.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is that now I have that all in my brain. I would like to think that I can just immediately have that already in my head, because I've done it so many times over and over and over. When you do something over and over and over, now when you do get in that fight or flight mode, it just happens automatically. You know what I mean? Whereas like back in the day, if somebody would have tried to like grab my hair or do something, I'm just like freezing up. It's like a big thing that people do, a trauma response. They just freeze up. So now, I have like so much more knowledge rather than just freeze up and start crying.
So that's one piece of advice for anybody listening. Don't start a fight with CJ. She knows her stuff now.
Listen, don't start a fight with me. Just don't do it, please. We can talk about it. But I will be honest if I have to.
Yeah, no, exactly. So, yeah, what was intimidating for you when you first entered the gym? What was it that the things that was stopping you mentally from going in there?
It's quite masculine looking, like the noises too, like people screaming. Like what? Yeah. And you're just like, what? But like, put me in my gloves on in there and I'm like screaming with the best of them too, because when you get so confident, then you also realize, I'm like working out my abs and, it's just kind of like part of the deal. There's also like a power in that too. But, if I was just to walk in like in my little dress and heels, it's intimidating. There's just like bags hanging. It's like reminiscent of, bodies or like a big piece of meat. Like everything is masculine about being in a boxing gym, like you don't see like any bright pink flowery boxing gym. So it's just I'm if something doesn't look like it's for me, then I'm not really curious about it. I just pass it on by, but I was really fortunate to have my girlfriend Kayla really encourage me. Otherwise, if I didn't have her encouraging me, I guarantee you I would have never tried it.
What advice
it's just intimidating.
It is. That's a good point. When you first enter a gym, it is intimidating. But when you're in there, you'll notice that it's sort of a family environment. I don't know if you found that, but it is sort of it is that you got that family feel where everyone greets you, everyone treats you as an equal. I feel, from my experience. And the good thing about a boxing gym is you have people from all sorts of backgrounds. You have white, blacks, Asian, Hispanics, everyone mixing in that gym together.
And once you get started too, like I kind of thought, like people that have been boxing for a longer time, they're going to be irritated by me or whatever. But no, like you said, it's quite family oriented. And the people that were much more well-versed were more than happy to help, as long as it was like a beginning or like an all stages class. I wouldn't recommend a beginner go into an advanced class and just try to wing it. It's rude, it's disrespectful of the other people's time. So, if it's somebody that's looking to just start out, make sure that you're going to an all levels class or a beginner class, because you always want to try to be mindful of things like that. But as long as it's an all levels class, everybody was more than happy to help. And, like I thought maybe like they would make fun of like my colorful outfits or something. Like nobody cared. Everyone is in there dying, like trying to make it through the class, all levels too. The people that are more advanced will just do like the cardio parts faster. And they're like, kneeled over. If you're doing the class right, everyone's kneeled over, like trying to catch their breath, or like going hard on the bags. Nobody's like looking at somebody else going, oh, she's not doing good or he's not doing good. Like nobody's doing that. And quite frankly, if somebody was to do that now, I'd just be like, that's so weird. Like, you should really be focusing on your own workout, But I was really embarrassed to not be good. And then I had one teacher in particular, he would always say, embrace the suck. And so I just always tell myself that, like, okay, just embrace the suck. And it's so true, because everyone starts somewhere.
Tell me about your necklace as well. I've been meaning to ask you. Got a little boxing pendant on.
Oh, it's not a boxing pendant. It's just like this Italian glove my boyfriend got me. Does it look like a boxing?
What the heck's it? I thought you wore it just for us.
No, I'm so sorry. I wore it for my boyfriend because he's so wonderful. It buys me wonderful gifts.
There you go. Sorry, the my mistake. I thought it was a glove.
It kind of looks like it.
It does, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Where we are. But
good eye, yeah.
Yeah. What advice would you give for anyone who's in a similar position as you, girl, woman, that would want to join a boxing club?
Oh, everybody needs to take. So first off, if you're a woman wanting to join a boxing club or class or something, definitely call, because I will say not all boxing classes are created equal. I would want to go. I would probably try to see. Now I'm a bit of a snoop, so I like want to check out the social media and see like, okay, is there other girls in there? Is this like real tough, like where they have, like, I don't know, like chains or like trash cans or for everyone to puke. Like, I don't know, maybe leave that to the men. But I would kind of want to see the social media. I'd maybe give them a call or pop by if possible. And say, oh, do you have, they might even have like specific ladies classes, self-defense classes. Again, I'm fortunate that I had a gal pal, so perhaps it might be nice to bring a girlfriend with you. So you kind of have, somebody that's, is also beginning as well, or even if you have somebody advanced. I would say also too, to look for a class, make sure that the class is all levels. That way you're encouraged by other people that might be there for their first time too. And also I will say, because I did try this one boxing class once before, I will say I do like the specific boxing spots rather than like a gym that has like a boxing class, a writing class, a yoga class. I really appreciated like the smaller boxing style only boxing spot versus going somewhere where they had a bunch of classes, because I got one boxing teacher that was really strange and antagonistic, and I thought, wow, if I was trying this class for my first time, I'd be totally turned off from boxing as a whole, because I think there is a little bit of machismo that goes into it sometimes when the ladies walk in. So that being said, go somewhere where their main thing is boxing. This is just my opinion. If you're in LA, go to Lobos Boxing. That's my that's my home. Yeah, you gotta try it the next time you come. We should go together. I would love to take you in there. You'll love Eddie. He's the best. But go somewhere that's patient. Nobody ever tries anything for the first time and is like super incredibly great at it, unless you're like some sort of a genius. And then you shouldn't be afraid to try anything then. If you're a genius and you're good at everything, then you should be trying everything, and you should be doing everything and, helping to save the planet. So, but that being said, if you're a normal person like the rest of us and you're scared, just go somewhere where it's an all levels class and really just do your best, and just acknowledge for yourself that you're not really going to do that great the first time, but it's not that big of a deal, and it doesn't mean that you shouldn't go back. I probably wasn't good for, I want to say, probably for the first 3 or 4 months. Like, I was so bad. And now even, there are things that are in my head where I just do it. If the teacher is giving out commands, I'll just do it. And I don't even know where that came from. It just happened slowly over time because I kept going back, because it was important to me. And, sometimes like you don't excel as fast as you want, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you should stop. So just like cut yourself some slack, decide whether or not if it's important to you. And if it's important to you, keep going, and just do your best. And honestly, something will click one day and then you'll be good. That was what my girlfriend told me too. She's like, one day it's just gonna click and you won't even know when, and then you'll be like much better. But she's like, it's gonna be kind of an overnight thing. You're gonna suck up until the point when you don't, and then you're gonna be like, oh my god, this is so cool, I know some things. And that was exactly what happened to me too. But you have to keep going. You can't give up.
It's like me. Do you remember my Pilates stories that I told you that we spoke when we said we were gonna?
That it was a struggle.
It was definitely a struggle. Do you know what? Maybe I should have done that. Kept going. Or maybe in the future, maybe instead of a boxing session, I might do a Pilates session with you.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to do that. We'll have to do that because there is like a lot. It is better if you have a friend. I'm telling you. You feel.
Yeah, you got a friend that can laugh at you next to you, right?
Yeah, exactly. But like, you guys can laugh at each other, and then they just help. Like, they just kind of like put it into perspective for you when you're done.
Amazing. CJ, thank you very much. I said 20 minutes, but I've taken 15 minutes of your time.
This was a good conversation.
It was a really good conversation. I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much for coming on and sharing your journey about sports and everything else about you as well. Really appreciate that. Is there anything else you want to say before we go?
No. You got it all. You're a great interviewer, Terry.
Thank you very much, CJ. I'll pay you for saying that later. Don't worry.
Fabulous, with interest.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for listening, guys. And I'll talk to the next one. Cheers.